Well, are we good? It looks like we're good. Yeah. Hi, Internet.
Hi, friends. How are you?
Yeah. Hope everybody's doing well. Let me move that down a little bit more.
Let us know if the audio is a little wonky. We're running an entirely new setup. We're using a laptop, so all the settings that would normally be saved on my computer have not. So just let us know about balancing, please.
Yeah. Also, if there's any questions about City of Mist or what we're trying, anything that we might look into down the road, any other games or anything like that, let us know. Just pop them into the chat. I got a thing to where I can write it down. And then as we can go through them, we'll go through them.
Yeah, the whole goal of kind of like what we're doing, the reason we're doing this, and the reason we even started doing the videos is we don't really have a lot of friends that kind of partake in anything outside of just Dungeons and Dragons.
And there's a whole world. There's amazing worlds out there.
I'll shift the camera a little bit. But yeah.
That being said, still trying to wrap your head around exactly how the mist itself works. Okay, so that's interesting. There's a few different examples in the book of how the mist, how you can work the mist. It can be everything from Percy Jackson, where there's this whole other world and humans don't see it because the mist itself, and this is the one that's actually in the book as the main one.
I kind of, when I think about it like that, like for anybody that's ever played D&D, I kind of look at it like the Feywild.
Yeah.
For that.
But it's on the same plane.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's the veil between that world and this world is super thin. But anybody who's not awoken that sees it forgets it, or it gets transmuted into, oh, there was an explosion or a gas leak or whatever.
Yeah.
That being said, you can also spin it in different ways. The way that we do it is the mist is a corporation that goes back and does cover-up stuff. So they'll wipe memories and they'll plant memories and they'll
very much kind of Men in Black style.
Very Men in Black style.
Yeah.
So the world itself is full of all the mystical, but this mist agency goes back and does cover-up to keep all of the unawoken people in the dark about it.
I got no complaints. All right, good. That means everything's going smoothly so far.
It really just depends on how you want to spin it for your story, though. Like I want to say there's 3 or 4 different examples in the book for it.
They definitely run off the whole idea that
Hey, 4. I'm saying hi to 4.
Oh, hey. I think it's super awesome that we're seeing people pop up in the chat that we actually have the comments with. So we've been streaming, honestly, and making content for about a year now. And it just be like a little transparent, there's a lot of talking to yourself that goes on.
Yeah.
And at times it can feel a little bit lonely. Like this is like the real side of things, like when you're trying to stream and stuff, do full time, and it's an interesting thing, and like to kind of see like people like in the chat coming back and saying hi, and us recognizing you guys by the conversations we have in the comment section. It makes me feel really good, man. And something that I was kind of like, I'm just gonna have like a real moment with y'all for a second. That was really cool.
Hey, Jax.
Jax, what's up, brother? How you doing, man? That's really, really cool that I was trying to explain to my mom about, honestly. Well, she's like, well, I don't understand why you like do it. I was like, well, and this is my kind of, well, I would say this is my art.
Sorry.
Bro, ruining the moment.
Spaceballs moment, sorry.
The sweep sleeps and the creeps.
No, we're not doing it for the money.
We're doing it for a shitload of money.
We're not even doing it for a shitload of money.
We don't have any sponsorships. We have a partnership, true story, with City of Mist, which we've been super open about. So if you don't win the book tonight, you can still get a little bit of a discount when we do that. But
it's 5% off for you, and then that 5% that they take off for you ends up coming back to us.
Yeah. But back to what I was saying. I was trying to explain to my mom, like, this is kind of like my style of art. Like, I'm not a good artist by traditional means. Like, I'm not a good sketcher or anything like that. And being able to like go in and like video editing and stuff like that, that's where my creative side comes out. JD's
getting better.
Real talk, like if you like seriously, when you get a chance, just scroll through some of our old content videos and just look at the thumbnails.
Some of the thumbnails are, if you go back too far, they're kind of rough.
And that's what I'm getting at is like, it's really neat to see people joining us on this journey where we have essentially grown as, I guess, creators would be the word that I would want to say. But it's really awesome to me when like I woke up this morning and I see that one of the videos that we put out, the character creation one, the introduction.
We just hit 1,000.
Yeah, we hit 1,000 views on it. Like, I've never had anything, whether it's a Twitch stream or a YouTube thing, because I used to do some gaming stuff on YouTube before me and JD started doing this. Seeing a video hit 1,000, I'm kind of just sitting there and was like, wow, I think it's super cool to me that I can have an opinion on something and I can have kind of like some facts and stuff to kind of back up my opinion and be in the same mindset as people on the internet, realistically, out in the world. Are like, hey, you know what? Yeah, pretty much. Let's get to know each other.
Also, if any of the audio levels are off a little bit, if one of us is a little bit quieter, or one of us needs to come up or down, or the music needs to come up just a hair or whatever, just let us know, because this is an all new setup for us, and we want to make sure once it's tweaked, it should be fine moving forward.
This is like,
today is,
for the most part, we've taken what we do for our YouTube videos, shrunk it down. Like, we've got all this up there. We got the City of Mist book here, but we're just sitting in chairs, and JD got a super dope chair, and here I'm in my gaming chair.
City of Mist is really cool. We were up pretty late. It does have a few shortcomings that we've discovered, but I don't know if it's so much the system itself has the shortcomings, or if it's just we need more time and experience, and it's a muscle that we're not quite used to flexing yet. But we'll talk about that, I'm sure.
That's really all I want to say. Long story short, realistically, thank you everybody who has watched, passed the word on, or anything like that, because it really does. It means a lot to me. Like, I've been working on stuff like this for years, and it just, I don't know, it makes me happy, and seeing people in chat like talking and stuff is super cool. And I do want to make something super clear. If you are here for the giveaway, I totally understand. I've been that guy. It's totally cool. You don't have to subscribe to our channel in order to be part of the giveaway.
No, not at all. It'd be cool if you did.
If you want to, and you're like, hey, these guys are cool people.
If then, not, that's fine. We'll see you next time.
Because we're here to talk to you guys. Back to the conversation at hand.
Yeah. Really think with the shortcomings, it has massive potential. Even with the shortcomings, I think it's great.
We
100% after our conversation. Part of the shortcomings is just me and coming from a nearly 15-year history with Dungeons and Dragons and crunchier titles. I mean, thank you. What are some of the problems? Well, I think we'll get there.
Yeah, we've got some like short run, not some short, but some topics that we're gonna get to directly centered around City of Mist and stuff like that too. We also want to share with you guys what we're gonna be doing as far as games and content going forward as well. And there's some games that we're super excited about.
Yeah.
Really, really excited about. So I guess we can kind of just get into that. So right off the bat, like I said, our whole idea when we started doing this stuff, me and JD were making content like legitimately via the internet on opposite sides of the country.
Yeah. He was out in Seattle and the Portland area, depending on what
Both.
part of the year it was. And then I was here in Arkansas. So we would do this remotely with green screens and just put any generic thing we could come up with behind us, which at the time was a world map for the Dungeons and Dragon world that I made.
MC tips.
MC tips. Yeah, we'll get to that.
MC tips. Some stuff we've had difficulty with. Yo, Jason, what's up, man? Welcome back, dude. Good call on that.
Tips.
On that last video, man. That really made me want to make that Guyver unit, dude.
The talking about MC side of things and doing videos for that's coming up. Our next video is looking like we're going to do the long form character creation where we take the video that we've made and we start at step 1 and we work through and we make essentially a pre-generated character for the community to take and use or anything like that, kind of like Lance Sullivan and those. After that one, we're going to do a couple other things that are kind of the gray area between player characters and the MC, and then after that we're going to do probably a handful on MC stuff and then a final thoughts where we wrap it all up. So the MC videos are coming. They're just a few weeks out.
Because like when we initially started doing this, we were pretty hardcore in just the D&D, really, for the most part. I mean, that's what I grew up playing. That was my jam. And then one day, me and JD are like, man,
let's do something else.
What if we play something else? I'm like,
right.
What if we play something else? And then like one game that I remember hearing about that just had a super cool like idea behind it was the whole City of Mist thing. And then I went on YouTube, and that's literally what started this. And then we put out one video, and I guess just by sheer luck or whatever, RuneSmith put one out too. So we were getting a lot of referrals from his videos. And
people watch his, look from our content, and find us.
So that was pretty dope. But we definitely do, just for transparency, we definitely do plan on covering other games and stuff like that. And that's kind of, we hope that you guys are kind of like, well, City of Mist is dope, but what about all these other games that are out here?
Ideally, in the talk that we had before, is start a game, cover the most important part of that up front, spend a couple months to 3 to 4 months on one game until we feel like we have an adequate understanding and have covered all of the most important parts of it and gotten it to where we've internalized it and have essentially mastered it for how far we want to go with it, and then change over and do a different game just to have more, not only more variety, but also a lot of these games are not something that most groups will play for 3 years at a time.
Yeah.
Like City of Mist for us, it's great and it's awesome, but it has a shelf life.
I'm gonna agree with you on that one. I feel, and we're gonna do like a final thoughts on this, but we've been playing this game pretty consistently for the last, like behind the scenes, about 2.5 months, give or take. It's very much kind of like a monster of the week because of the way the game handles the cases and stuff like that.
And the case can last, we had the big case that we did lasted a full month, kind of. Yeah. But it was still chasing down this one individual thing that would be part of this overarching, it would be a piece of the pie. And eventually you end up seeing the whole pie, but it's still there's this one thing going on. And D&D is kind of the same way, but with something like D&D where it's this, here's an open world, go play, as opposed to City of Mist is very much set up in each case is an adventure module.
Yeah, that's definitely not to say that it can't be done, but because the game is so relatively new, I would say, and it doesn't have much lore, and by much lore I'm comparing to stuff like Warhammer, I'm talking like D&D, and I'm talking like Cyberpunk and stuff like that. So those games that have these huge elaborate worlds that have already been developed, like real talk, like it could be done. And I think it would take somebody, like if you've got a very big creative mindset, you can create this whole elaborate world. Because touching back on what JD said on what the Mist is in the book, it literally pretty much just says it's basically the shroud that is put over the world that normal people can't see through. And once you become awakened and you become a rift, that's when you start to be able to see through it.
Right.
But it can also be like covering up an agency and stuff like that too.
It can be a disease.
Yeah.
It can literally be whatever you want it to be. He's drinking coffee and water. I have water.
Yeah. I'll get to the beer here in a little bit.
Any advice for someone who has never played before? Find a game, find a few people. You'll get to play at some point, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And then have them help you make a character and get started, or watch enough YouTube videos to where it's like, yeah, I want to play that game, and then go from there, because that's how most people get started nowadays.
And if you want to, Hannah, you can get the starter kit for free on their website.
Yes,
you can get the basic rule set and stuff like that, and it'll explain to you how the dice rolling and stuff like that works. If you're a PC, MCs don't roll.
It's gone. I lost it.
All right,
it was there. It's gone.
It happens.
Yeah, I don't know where it went.
But the game, like for one shots, or maybe just like short burst, like kind of campaign stuff, I think is where this game's really going to showcase. Because one thing, and like we were talking, and we can get to one of those questions now, where it's like one thing that's a little more difficult to kind of wrap your head around. And JD and I were having a conversation about this last night for like hours on end, and this was the statuses.
think we'll come back to the statuses. Talk about the progression, because D&D crunchier titles. Progression is cool. You get X amount of experience, or you do the thing, you get a level. I mean, your level gives you all this stuff and whatnot. Where this game is,
but the progression, it's different, but it's very straightforward.
It is very straightforward. It's very cut. This is how it works. This is what you get. It's very set in stone.
I mean, you basically, anytime you answer one of your questions off of your mythos, or your one of your, what is it, your identity, or one of your mysteries, you basically get a tick mark. You get X amount of tick marks to basically gain a level. When you gain a level, you get different options.
Or you use your weakness tag, and your weakness tag whenever you,
which also stacks on top of exactly.
There's lots of ways to get that attention tags or attention marks and everything to get to the improvements. It still feels lacking, but that's also, we're coming from D&D, where a level can give you everything from, you get HP, you get another hit die, you get more damage, you get 3 or 4 abilities, you get a new spell or whatever. Like, there's this giant list of stuff that you get from leveling up in D&D, whereas this is, you mark attention a handful of times, cool, you get an improvement. Your improvement can be, here's a list.
And then once you get improvements, you also get to stack on top of the things that lead up to your, basically, I call them your moments of triumph, but it's because I play Destiny. We know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Favorite
evolution, moments of
evolution. Pre-made character. We actually skipped the pre-made characters. It was one of the, what I feel is the mistakes of learning that we made. We had the starter kit, and we were like, cool, let's make our own characters. And we made our own characters, and then we get the actual
and we're like,
or the player's guide, and we're like, wait,
we did this hella wrong.
It worked, but we were way off. Let's go back and fix this.
But we were able to, once we went through and did that, though. Like, I literally sat there. I was like, okay, I'm like, you have like the general idea. I'm like, okay, I just need to tweak some of the questions and stuff like that. However, I can say as far of the part, dude, your boy can never talk. It's hard times. The pre-made characters, I did like Salamander just because I'm a nerd for fire.
Not Kitsune.
Kitsune, she was the teleporter, right? The blinker, the tech kid.
The fate, the teleport. Yeah.
Yeah.
The one that had the weapon that could change into anything. I'd have to look at it.
There's a book right there, JD.
There's a book right there.
Shit. I can get it. But in the
Excalibur, there you go. Yeah, Excalibur was the one that if I was going to pick one, would be the one I would want to use. Whoop. It got flagged just because it was all caps, not butts on it.
I'm gonna view it anyway. View the message.
Yeah, it just says Excalibur in all caps.
Oh.
Yeah, Excalibur is the one. If I was going to play one, which always MC and happy to be, honestly. I enjoy this side of the table, but Excalibur looks cool. Misconception podcast after playing. A little better just watching, listening to other people playing. Yeah, that's a great way to learn. That's the way I learn a lot of the different systems, is just watching or listening to different people play and the way that they use it.
Misconceptions is good stuff, dude. Their audio podcast is super good. Would agree. Would recommend 10 out of 10. But after we had started playing, right, and we went through and we kind of looked back on like how the characters were pre-made, it basically allowed us to take the characters we already made and with our ideas that we had already had, implemented,
just a hair and
to basically make it into a character. Because even if we hadn't done that, as long as you follow the the guidelines that the steps you're supposed to take, like the questions and stuff, I honestly think you can kind of for your power tag specifically.
Even if if you make your character ahead of time before you have the player's guide, you make it from the starter kit. You make your own, and you base it off of the pre-made ones, and you kind of use those as a guide. When you get the player's guide, you can go back and look at your power tags and say, okay, cool, that question fits this one, that question fits this one.
And that's exactly what I
did.
Yeah.
That being said, having went through that and experienced that 100%, if you want to try it and you don't want to invest before you try it, I would suggest using a pre-made character.
You can. They're good. They're all set up and they're ready to go right out the box.
They're good characters. They're ready to go out the box. You don't have to worry about, well, how am I going to fix this later? If you want to change to a different character later, cool, go for that too. But it just makes it a little bit easier and a little bit faster.
And even if you're coming off of a background where, let's say you have zero role-playing experience and this is a new experience for you, it also tells you kind of like the way they act and stuff like that. Yeah. And if you go through the book, it has like, I don't want to say short stories, but kind of, it has like little excerpts where it has a player and it has their character acting specific ways.
That is in character.
Yeah. So you can kind of get a feel for the character itself if you want to play it that way. But I mean, honestly, dude, my favorite part about playing tabletop games is the role-playing aspect.
I agree.
And being able to, I mean, for the lack of a better word, be somebody I'm not. Or 8
different people in one night.
This is true. And I think it's really, really fun too, because
that would be a fun one.
What?
A Legion character.
Because you're many?
Yeah.
That would be dope.
That would be really cool. Like it would be adaptive, obviously.
Yeah, and you would basically have to work it to where like are we talking Legion as in Xavier Legion?
Yes.
You would basically have to take each personality type that he has or mental state and basically set as its own power tag.
Or like a group of them is one type of power tag. Yeah, that would be cool.
You remember how you had a train that derailed? You just... And mine is gone and lost on the track somewhere now.
Right. Let's talk about statuses. Statuses I feel like is this game's biggest hurdle.
Depending, and this is where him and I went back and forth last night.
Not so much for players.
That from an MC perspective, why don't you go ahead and talk about that? I'm gonna go hands off on this one.
Oh gosh, where to start? Statuses are rough for an MC. Everything from the MC's kit about statuses is when an NPC or a character reaches their threshold, whether that be 5 or 3 or whatever that may be. They either leave the fight or they're unconscious. There's a physical side to it, and then there's a mental side to it. So essentially, there's 2 HP pools.
Yeah.
That being said, everything's arbitrary. For the player actions, it's based on the tier equals the power of the status for a lot of it. But even then, it's for the enemy. If you're making custom rules and stuff, it's kind of arbitrary. And a lot of the moves that are in the book, like one of them is a person is swift-footed or whatever. They have a little bit of the movement. They're a little bit of a speedster, so they have a slam into somebody at full speed, mild concussion 3. But figuring out how mild concussion 3 impacts the physical or the mental side of things, if it's both, if it's one, if it's the other, and then how the player moves. Somebody uses somebody's Magneto and uses magnetism to slow down somebody's blood flow. So cool, they're dazed 2 or whatever, or anywhere on that scale. It's just very off the cuff and arbitrary. I feel like it's something that takes a lot of practice to get good at doing, something that takes a lot of getting used to be able to say, just cool, you do that, okay, yeah, we're gonna give them this status and just throw it off the cuff. Whereas with D&D, and I know it's years of experience, but I can do that with monsters in D&D all the time. Be like, yeah, cool, okay, cool, the goblin takes this much and does this.
Daggers do this much, longsword does this much.
Right, and it's just all offhand, and it's just, yeah, I know all these things, I'm used to it. I can just, even if I want to change something, cool, let's make a magic item. It's a +2 longsword. It does a D8 +2. The 2 is fire damage. It also does a 1d4 of fire damage, and it creates low light in 30 feet.
Counter to that. With that being said, though, I mean, kind of like what you said, though, you have practice in that regard. Right. It's, I mean, real talk. It's our wheelhouse. I mean, like, right. D&D, like, is like the universal standard. I mean, it's
the vanilla milkshake.
Yeah. Oh, your boy likes his vanilla. For real.
MC Screen does have a lot of good examples for it. It's one of those things. It's a muscle that has to be used enough to get comfortable with it, to be able to say, player does X. Cool, it's this much at this tier, and it's going to impact them this much, and it's a less on the mental side of it than the physical side of it. So we're going to give them a 2 and a 4, and just kind of, it's a weird juggling act right now for me.
I mean, on the player side,
you don't have to do anything.
I mean, I play, I make jokes, I drink beer, I drink coffee, and I play. The status is literally coming off the cuff, right? And being kind of having to be determined on the fly. Like last week, like I came up with this basically essential like Playboy facade to basically Mr. Corporate douchebag. Right. I'm working for this guy, and I put on this suit and tie and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, so I'm doing this. He's like, okay. So I'm like, hey, GD. He's like, what's up? I'm like, can I get some kind of stat bonuses here? Some kind of story tag action? He's like, yeah. Give yourself a +3 to. I was like, can I get like a 3 to bullshitting? He's like, yeah. He's like, but let's keep it like real and just do like the +3 to convince.
Sure, because it was convince was more appropriate because it was actually based in there was truth to it.
Yeah,
everything was laid out to be truthful, whereas bullshitting has more of a connotation of you're trying to be sneaky in the subterfuge. Game session will usually last, for us anyway, from 2 to 4 hours usually. For City of Mist. For things like D&D, I used to run games of D&D that would last for 12 hours. Which that was awesome.
When we started playing, back when in the good old days of Twitch, when we were streaming, we would pretty much just play until we were cashed out.
Yeah.
Until we was ready to go
everybody was
sleepies.
brain dead, and we were like, yep, we'll see you next week.
I agree that D&D is good vanilla starter, but what other role-playing games would you suggest other than City? We're going to talk about that.
I mean, we can talk about it now, unless we're still wanting to talk about the MC and status stuff.
I was just going to wrap up my status thing. So as from a player side, it's pretty easy for me to understand how I'm supposed to apply these statuses to other things.
It's built into your moves.
Yeah, in chat, correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe break it down a little bit. One thing that's a little wonky to me, and I was kind of explaining this to JD, but I guess now that I'm kind of thinking of it, it makes a little bit of sense. But one thing that I do think is a little odd would be, for example, let's say I'm going up to talk to an NPC and I want to get information out of them. And I want to do like the convince, or if I'm trying to lie to him, roll sneaking around, because sneaking around is lying and convince is just trying to get information out. So you basically take it and you roll the 2d6 and you apply your powers towards it. So I have an ability with my magnetism that basically lets me kind of like manipulate their blood through a little bit, put them in like a fuzzy, hazy state. Magneto does it. Literally, dude, my guy's a cross between like Magneto and Storm. That's the whole plan.
Which is really cool.
Yeah. So once you do it, you're like, okay, you get the information, but this NPC per rule is supposed to have a status on it. So in the idea that you come back, I guess you wouldn't have to roll the status. You wouldn't have to roll the check on it again. You're basically just essentially subtracting the whatever I've got from my power tags towards it. But in most games, like once I've taken my notes and stuff like that and I've got my information.
Once you have the information, you're done with that.
I won't go back to the NPC. Right. Because, I mean, like, realistically, too, and, like, in situations like that where I might need to lean on my players, so it's like, hey, did I get something wrong? What do you got in your notes for this real quick? Right. Oh, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So that part I do think is a little bit weird. I understand how it works, but having the status put on after I've already got the information, like, it almost seems like, from my side, like, it almost makes me want to roll again.
Yeah, and that's specifically that's for once you have an improvement on convince. For convince, usually there's no status applied. But if you have that improvement, giving them a cooperative 1 or whatever, I guess if you're trying to get a lot of information out of them and you're going to be there for a while, it would make sense. But it's also one of those.
But if you're using abilities in this game, the way it works is for the most part, you should be imposing statuses whenever.
All the time.
Yeah, whenever you're basically doing something that is altering or changing like the story with story tags and stuff like that. But I think that's really the one that I was kind of just like,
this is kind of weird.
A little bit.
When you hit 5 on status, you're out of the fight. Okay. So that's for players. If you hit 5 on anything, you're out of the fight. If you hit 6 you're done, dead, or you
transmutated or something.
Something really big happens. Does the number mean 5 on one status or 5 cumulative between all statuses?
Maybe we should get a picture of the card.
That's okay. So in the MC kit, where it's talking about statuses and spectrums, enemies or adversary, any danger really, it can be a time bomb, it can be a building fire, whatever, has a threshold of, some of them are 5, some of them are 2, some of them are 1. That like
Chace, I love you, man.
A super elderly old man with a heart condition might have a threshold or a spectrum of 1.
Yeah.
To be frightened.
Yeah.
Cool. You surprise him on accident. You scare him. You intimidate him too much. He's going to have a heart attack. He dies there on the spot because his spectrum is 1. So that being said, it's a cumulative reaching to that. So say a big burly bruiser guy with this Herculean strength in body or whatever, right? You hit him you put a status 3 on him.
Right.
Steve puts a status 3 on him. He's fine. It goes up to a status 4 at that point. His spectrum would be like a status 5 for hurt or subdue. So you would have your electricity or your magnetism or your just blunt damage from fleeing a lamppost at him would be cumulative with the other players, however many there are, adding onto that, and it would all go under the physical hurting.
Right. So what you're trying to say is basically you have the 2 poles, like you said. You've got your physical and you've got your mental. If you have something that's going to affect some type of physical harm or damage to this NPC, or I mean even player technically, that's all going to come out of one pool. Like falling, like bludgeoning, hurt, some type of physical damage that's going to affect you or the character, versus something that's going to affect like their mental stability, essentially, where you can basically break them down mentally.
And it's weird, the merging of the 2. If it's physical, you have to think about what kind of physical damage it's doing, and depending on what kind of physical damage it's doing, it also implies a negative status on their impact toward you. So whenever you try to go toe to toe, it takes, instead of it being like a 7 to 9 and then a 10 plus, it becomes a 5 to 7 and then an
because
8 plus,
the 2 basically merge together.
There's a lot of muddy stuff in statuses where it's this goes this way, this goes this way, these 2 are merged, and then it adjusts more, and
Xavier says, when I was first making a character, I had a power in mind, but I don't know what myth which had that kind of power. Does anything go? So can I just do like an obscure character or something? Yes, you can. 100%. So what basically I did for my character to take the magnetism basically as its primary. I just started, honestly, dude, I went on Google and I did some research and tried to see if maybe there was like some type of god or legend in history that maybe discovered it or whatever. So what I ended up finding was there is a dude out in Greece that had basically
discovered
magnetism. He was a shepherd and he found it based off of like some rocks or something like that, where he made something spin. So I was like, what if I take that idea and then he is my mythoi essentially, and I just kind of take that idea and make him kind of like a god essentially. There's nothing anywhere in the rules that says you can't just pull something from history. If you wanted to, dude, you could create a video game character.
Absolutely.
Like your mythoi could be a video game character.
So a mythoi by the book is any legend, folklore, mythology, everything even down to a rumor somebody started. Any kind of ghost story could be a mythoi. Literally anything that you can grab and say, cool, this has some kind of cultural impact in some way.
You're absolutely right. It doesn't even have to be a physical being.
Exactly.
It can be like an energy. It can be like I don't see why it couldn't be an emotion, like you said. I think that would work.
The Aurora Borealis, you could change it and shift it, and it has this mental impact on people, and it's this mind control kind of thing, and that's your mythoi.
And now you're Dazzler.
Exactly. You could go so far as a ghost story, like Bloody Mary could be your mythoi.
Yeah, dude, the Candy Man. Oh.
Yeah. You could do.
Steve was gonna do a Krampus.
Yeah, you could do Krampus. You could even get weird with it. You could do Bill Gates is your mythoid.
You're just a big tech nerd. Yeah, no,
you're
you
a
could.
giant tech nerd with this massive amount of money.
Like when we were going through, and like in one of the last videos, and even the one we just put out today, we even kind of, and JD's like, dude, what about using Sherlock Holmes? I'm like, but he's not super. I'm like,
doesn't matter.
But it's folklore.
It's culturally significant.
Mm-hmm. Like everybody knows who Sherlock and Watson are.
Or they should. Also, the books are really
also, the show is amazing.
The newer one?
Yeah, dude, with your boy Benny Cumbo.
So I had a question a little bit back. Other games. Characters in Oilbound has the mythoid of Robin Hood, so feels conflicted when he starts robbing his pals to give him money away. I mean, yeah, that works.
Yeah, that's like a weakness.
Yeah, that internal conflict's really good, because then you have the oil baron side of it with the money as the logos, but then you have the Robin Hood mythos, and there's a conflict.
Yeah, that's
there.
actually a really,
that
really
internal
cool
struggle
thing.
is really cool. Other games, so games that we have on deck.
Okay.
That we're planning to do.
Oh boy, so
and games that we're planning to do way down the line that we're really excited for.
So we have realistically kind of like a goal, and we really, really hope you guys stick around and experience these games with us, because again, this is going to fall into like the not D&D category, because what we're trying to do for this channel is a couple of things. Like our overall goal is find more people like us that we can kind of just talk to and hang out with.
And that being said,
the Discord.
Somewhere down below is the Discord link.
Yeah.
And I don't have any information in it yet. I'm going to go in, make some information tonight, and put a few pins in it. There is a looking for group game sign up in the Discord now.
Yeah, so if you guys want to play games with us, or maybe if
Between
you guys
each other
become
and
friends
stuff,
with each other, play with each other.
I'm going to go in, make a Google Doc for it, which is essentially sign up sheet, your name, your time, your preferred pronouns, all that kind of stuff. What kind of games you're looking for, what are some of your favorite games, crunchy, role play side of things, however, and just build a Google Doc that's like, hey, fill this out and it'll put your information in, and then compare with other people and that kind of thing.
We want this community that we're trying to put together. We want it to be open to everybody. Like, we want it to be just a nice experience for everyone. It doesn't matter what your past is. If you're a good person and you're basically just not a turd, you're welcome here.
Right.
Like, no bigotry. We're keeping that out of here. We are open. Like, we have people in our community that are much LGBTQA plus, and I support and love every one of you. And we want to make that a big deal, that being racist or homophobic is not going to be accepted in this community.
And if somebody signs up and there's a group that's playing a game that we're not part of and we hear about it, cool. What I'm doing that day, I'm going to talk to that person about it. I'm going to see if anybody's got a snapshot of the chat logs, whatever. Cool. See ya.
Yeah, because
we got no room for that here.
No, it's not what we're about.
So other games. So we've done.
Okay, here we go.
We did D&D for about a year, which was awesome and great, and was I think the longest campaign I've run. I hated how it ended because it kind of just fell apart because
players dropped out. Yeah.
Well, life stuff comes up.
Life stuff came up, forcing the players.
And eventually I'm going to go back and put a nice bow on that. Doing City of Mist now. Next is one of two things.
Okay, so we have like a total of 3 games that are lined up outside of City of Mist that we want to kind of like go through before the end of the year, that we're going to cover and play and stuff like that.
To this extent. So
yeah, absolutely.
Whenever we're done with the game, there should be enough videos on that to say, here's everything for character creation. Here's everything for the weird gray areas that apply to both characters and MCs.
Yeah.
Here's everything for the person behind the screen.
So the first 2 that we have coming up, and we're still deciding on which way we want to go, but I'm kind of leaning towards one way just for one reason in particular. So right off the bat, the next 2 that we have Quest and Blades in the Dark, both of which we are super stoked about. Quest would be, if I could take in its simplest terms, think D&D light, and from what I'm reading and what I'm understanding, and I've read this book through I don't know how many times at this point, it is the most welcoming and easy to understand tabletop game I have ever had a chance to even learn about.
I would also say it's one of the most quickly progressing as well.
Quickly, so yeah, basically after every session,
You get
some type of ability upgrade.
It also will bring a very much high fantasy, very fantastical game for us for a while, whereas Blades in the Dark takes City of Mist, dark, kind of modern noir.
It takes City of Mist, it takes Dishonored,
and it says, here's a really dark, messed up baby. Go have fun.
Yeah, so...
Which is going to be super cool, but also, our City of Mist stuff is pretty heavy. And going from one heavy into an even heavier one.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason why I'm thinking I'm kind of leaning more towards Quest, because it would also, again, falling back to kind of like, we want to just get to know other people. And this is going to lead us to another question that we can talk about later on, because we're kind of curious on what your guys' thought process is on this, but and your opinions on it. But being able to play Quest with people that have never played a tabletop game before, haven't had the opportunity to join in a game session or anything like that, we want to change that.
Quest is
Quest is the game to do that.
Especially after reading it. Quest is D20 system, but it's modified D20 system.
It's such a simplified D20 system.
Yeah, it's very much a City of Mist, but in a D20 system where it's 20 is this amazing success, and then 11 to 19 is successful, and then like 7 to 10 is successful, and then everything below is a fail.
So something about City of Mist, and this is just for me. So I have up to this date realistically only ever DM'd or MC'd or GM'd all the same thing essentially.
Been behind the screen.
One game,
which was awesome. It was a very fun game.
I tried. Only one game ever. And mostly for me, honestly, I've even been playing for so long, so I shouldn't really have an excuse, but I always have kind of like this little thought in the back of my mind, right? And it's something along the lines of like, well, I mean, you can do it for sure, but what if they don't like it? What if you suck?
Well, then it's a rough session.
Right. So, but...
You pick it up and you say, okay, that didn't work. Let me try this instead.
Right, and like, I'm sitting here and I'm kind of just like, well, dude, that's got to be every... insert acronym here behind the screen person's thought process before they get a game going,
even after.
But when it comes to like D&D and stuff like that, as a person that has never DM'd a session, it has always been a little intimidating to me because there's so much to know. And because people have played this game for so long, that even though I would have friends and stuff that I would be playing that I know would not judge me at all, like it's still just got that little tap in the back of the head. Which there's a point to this, which is why I'm really excited about Quest, because everything is basically out. Oh, I'm getting there.
Do you want to DM Quest?
I mean, I'll do some sessions. That's what I'm basically going to get to. I want to, and I will. I'll come up with a little bit of a story and stuff, because the world itself, like they're releasing a new expansion that actually goes into Kickstarter, I think tomorrow, which guys, for real, if you can back do it, because this team is super small and their content's really dope.
It'll be backed instantly.
Or, yeah.
It'll be up for 2 hours and it'll be double whatever they wanted.
But
it's in there.
I looked up. See if
I've been reading. It's in there.
But because it's so much easier for me to understand and easy to wrap my head around, not really having to deal with this weapon does this does this, your blah 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 has this plus this plus this plus this plus this, which on the player side I can totally do, but on the DM side, I've always kind of
have 4 players and you're trying to balance for player 1 is able to do 12 damage per swing on average. Player 2 is able to do 18 damage per swing on average, but then does debuffs. And then player 3 is a super tank that you can't hit unless you roll above a 40 and has 100 HP. And then player 4 it's a lot to remember. It's a lot to wrap your head around.
I already checked out, man.
It's a lot. It's an exercise. It's definitely something that you develop a brain for.
Yeah, which is why, like, and I'm totally cool with it, and I've been thinking about it a lot lately, is I don't know if I have the experience yet to, like, do, like, this huge extravagant campaign.
Yeah. But
because the way the game Quest is set up, I would say, in my personal opinion, just from reading the guidebook, it is bar none, hands down, like the easiest system I've ever had to learn and most welcoming out of any tabletop game I've ever seen, which is dope. And ironically also the reason they did it.
Exactly. And it's reading it. I haven't read enough into the MC side or the DM side of things to the guide, I think is what they call it in that one, side of things, to say, cool, this is a short monster of the week kind of system. It feels kind of a chapter system, a short arc, as opposed, and I mean 100%, it's here's an open world, and what you're going to go do is these short arcs, and there might be this big arc, but it's rare that you will ever touch it, because that's more of an in-depth thing than what it's built for. Not to say that it can't, but it's not what it's designed in favor of.
I would say yes and no to that. So yes, for sure.
It's windy.
I'm like, is there music playing?
I think
there is in the background, but it's muted on our end, so we can't hear it. But so you can absolutely 100% do one shots, just like you could crank them out. You basically set, for the lack, it doesn't really have a level.
Here's the sword and shield, go hit stuff.
Yeah, basically, and you absolutely can. You basically start the game off with 6 abilities right off the bat, and each time you complete a session, you gain an ability. So it even uses, and this is kind of like what I was saying, I'm a little bit on the opposite side of that, is it even has, if you want to play this game in long form, you can. It even suggests that if that's something that you want to do, you might need to change around the progression and stuff.
Every couple sessions,
exactly.
Every third session, every time that you reach in a milestone.
Yeah, and it even uses a lot of D&D terminology, but they change it a little bit. They have like milestone stuff as far as like the leveling works in that game. But that's one game I'm really, really excited about. And then Blades in the Dark, which we touched on a little bit.
I feel like Blades is a half, like right in the middle between City of Mist and something like D&D.
I would say, yeah. So what's really gnarly about Blades in the Dark is you're literally playing...
You're playing to lose.
I mean, but you hope you don't.
So the Blades system, Blades in the Dark, Band of Blades, and Scum and Villainy, the players are set up to eventually...
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah.
Down the road, whether that be a year down the road or a month down the road or next week, you lose.
Right. So...
But the journey to get to that point...
Right, because the whole point of this game is you're playing a group of scoundrels. I mean, if we want to just call like D&D,
so
a bunch of rogues.
Yeah, Blades in the Dark is a bunch of rogues. Band of Blades is you are the surviving remnants of humanity, and you are outrunning essentially an undead horde that's ruled over by this champion of the undead hero, and there's no way out. It's just survive as long as you can.
Yeah, and
Scum and Villainy is the same way. You're space rogues that are at odds with the Galactic Federation.
You're a bunch of solos.
Yeah, you're Han Solo and Chewbacca and all of those types of characters, and that's how you make ends meet, and the missions that you go on, and the trouble that you get up to, and that stuff.
So, and those games are all part of the same universe. They're basically just kind of like different settings and different small tweaks.
All the core rules are the same. The classes are a little bit different for each one, and then the settings are different for each one.
Yeah, but basically you're... In Blades in the Dark, you're playing a group of scoundrels that are basically thieves, and you're always going for that next big heist. You want the next big score, and playing to lose, kind of getting to the point to where like you're gonna have to fail at some point. It's inevitable. Something is gonna happen, and something's gonna happen while you're on this heist where some bad shit's gonna go down. And
you hope you make it out, but you might not.
Yeah.
Every session could be your last. Which is super cool, and I like that kind of upping the ante of
it's a very
dark.
Yeah, and I'm only about halfway through the book. Yeah. It's a very dark game and can dip into some... depending on who you're playing with, I can definitely see it getting into some uncomfortable places for players. But as I've said before, and I'll let you get on that in just a second. It's my thoughts, so I can't
Please do.
derail it. If you're going to have uncomfortable situations, it doesn't matter if it's Blade in the Dark, it doesn't matter if it's D&D, it doesn't matter what you're playing, have the conversation with your table. Hey, I have an idea that I might want to make this happen as the MC, or I want to do this as a player. Is this okay with you? If they say, nope,
that's off the table.
That's off the table.
Cool. And that can be anything. That can be even romantic relationships.
Yeah, 100%.
Because there are tables that have problems with that, and 100%. If that's a problem, be like, and it should be a question. Okay, cool. Is it some, do these two characters becoming romantically involved? If that's off the table, if it's important, is that just a cool that happens? We're gonna fade to black. It's the next morning.
Player created stuff or DM created bad stuff? Both.
So Blades in the Dark is set up to. The majority of it is story.
It's got the same cinematic, and this is what he was saying.
DM
it's like
created bad stuff is the majority of it, but based on your roles,
you can also do bad stuff to impede other characters in the game too.
Based on your character motivations in your roles, player A may just be after a painting that they can fence for an exorbitant amount of money, while player B on the same job is trying to do the job, which is get in and grab a document and get out. But player A didn't know the painting was there, so now they're at odds, and player A says, "No, I'm taking this. I'm out."
The storytelling in Blades in the Dark,
retrospective,
it's actually very similar to the City of Mist. It's very cinematic, whereas I feel like a lot of times in City of Mist, and I think it's cool, players are really what kind of drag the story along, whereas the MC basically just describes what's going on.
The MC for City of Mist is fully reactionary.
Yeah.
You never make a roll. You never do anything. It's always just in reaction. This happens.
But it has this really wild system to where, like, when I was reading the book, and I don't know if it's still on Amazon, but I picked it up for $20. If you're interested, definitely check it out.
And the books are awesome. They have this really interesting black and white, comic-y kind of art. It's really cool.
It has basically almost like an alert, it really does have what essentially is an alert system, and they use they call it a clock. And depending on how, bad the situation is or how big the area is, it can have different ticks. And once you start adding ticks to the clock, once that clock drops down to 0, it's it's party time.
Right. And everybody's alerted. They're running in. And one building may have 14 different alert clocks where they're in different parts of the room and stuff. Player deaths are more common because they can be really impactful. See, that was my biggest issue with 5th edition. If you're going to kill a player in 5th edition, good luck.
We did a video on player death a long time ago. And if you scroll down and you check it out,
somewhere.
It's in there.
It's a good video.
I think it's the one where you did the
It was right after Steve died.
Yeah, and it was it was the zombie show.
It was the Walking Dead thumbnail.
Yeah, the Walking Dead thumbnail.
Where I got Lucille.
Yeah. I have always been a firm believer, and because I like the role-playing side so much, it should be impactful when a character dies, regardless of what you're playing. And by that, I mean, like, you essentially set off on this journey.
You make friends. You make enemies. Somebody's not coming home every time.
No. And you essentially start building these relationships with people. And I don't know if you want to call it the critical role curse or anything like that, but
twice. Yeah.
But also Spirit rolls tight. Make that clear. The impact that you have, like, when you lose a party member, like, unless you're playing this character where realistically you're butting heads with this person, which totally makes sense, and you totally can do, because you could have conflicting ideas with each other, different
objectives.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You might want, I'm like, cliche, you've got the rogue, you've got the paladin.
You work on the same path, and the path slowly gets further apart, and eventually it comes to a head.
And I think that when you're starting off, right, and let's say you guys are butting heads and the players are butting heads with each other per character. Outside, you have your relationship and you guys are buddies and stuff like that, but you can only really, in my opinion, be a dick to your party for so long before, the party members start getting mad. And then realistically, sometimes even, like, and it's hard, but it does happen. You should never, idealistically, you want the problems and the conflict left at the table, right? Yeah. Not to come out. But sometimes you're like, hey, man, your character's being kind of a jerk, and hey, Sarah, what's up? And I don't really like the way he's acting, and it's kind of bugging me a little bit personally. that you can use those opportunities and those moments to basically grow your relationship with the player character that you may be having conflict with, and build a relationship with them, and go from butting heads and maybe being enemies or maybe being rivals to having a newfound respect for each other.
Yeah.
And if that player dies, that's a bummer, man. Like, you sat here and, like, let's think about this a minute. I've taken, that's the cat.
That's fine.
I've taken X amount of hours and I've invested time in this game and playing and all this other stuff. And now my character's gone. That's a bummer. And deaths in game, like, if a player dies, it's be like, yeah, it's dead, whatever, I'll just make a new one. Unless it's like that style, which there's games where you can basically, like, character burners.
You can run D&D that way. It's just...
But when you're having, like, this epic story and stuff like that, I think it makes it more impactful. It makes it more cinematic. It makes it more personal.
Well, it was, and Steve's death is a great example, because y'all were, we're doing this little bounty thing, and this is fine, and no, the constrictor snakes are huge, and they rolled really well. Yeah, he did, and there's no saving him.
But if you're a bard and you're in the front lines like a fighter all the time,
yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting thing. I feel like death is a storytelling element that's missing from most of 5th edition and most 5th edition tables.
But it all depends, and this is kind of circling back around to, like, the final thought I had on that for me was, it really all depends, in my opinion, on how it's done and who you're playing with.
That being said, if you're playing 5th edition and a player goes down and you're the DM,
cough cough, I had a fire that was, bro, that fighter was also a god.
Hidden death save rolls that the DM rolls instead of the players add such a level of tension and such a level of urgency that I will never do it any other way. It's amazing.
Yeah. I passed that idea off to JD after watching one of I don't remember if it was a stream or just video. I was watching one of XP's videos and I was like, dude, check this out. I'm like, death saves. He's like, yeah, what about him? I was like, you roll him. Well, what do you mean? Player doesn't roll him. And he's like, wait a minute. I'm like, dude, because that means if a player's rolling it, then realistically, if you're breaking down this game for how it works, you have X amount of turns as a player before you need to get over there and save that person.
Yeah.
Period. So by having the DM roll it, it's like, okay, Ryan, you're incapacitated.
You're
I'm gonna roll your death save.
I'm gonna roll your death save.
Okay.
Okay, cool. We'll
I don't know if I made it. Now my table doesn't know if I've made it at this point.
Yeah.
So it adds a sense of urgency to the players to get over there and try to help that person out, because let's say they failed the first 2, so the next one they could die. Or if you're rolling it on yourself, you pass the first one, that means I have at least 2 more death saves I can fail before you have to worry about anything.
Everybody knows that because it's an open roll.
Yeah. It's actually a really cool idea.
So the next game after those that I'm super excited for.
Oh man, we're stoked about this one.
And I so want to be a player in it, and I'm pretty sure I'm probably going to be the one that DMs it. A couple of y'all having to head out. Absolutely.
Unfortunately, sleep. It's 1 a.m. in Britain. Thank you so much for shopping. For stopping, but I got school. But I hope the best for you guys, because you're both so nice and deserve it. And thanks for the suggestions, Riley. Thank you so much, dude. That really. That means a lot. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your kind words.
And Gibby as well. Y'all have a good night. Lancer is super crunchy, super different from what we've been playing, and I'm super excited for it.
So, Lancer. Dude.
You're mech pilots and you work.
You guys like Gundam? If you like Gundam, take that and add D&D 4th edition to it.
Yeah.
You like Mech Warrior?
You're essentially mercenaries working for different companies because there is no big government. The companies are the government, and the companies are at war with each other. And you work for each one, and you get sponsors. And as you grow your sponsorships and you grow with specific companies, they give you upgrades, so you get new mechs and new weapons, and it's super cool.
Oh boy.
Cat. I will be back. I'm going to fix that.
But Lancer came out, I think, last year through Kickstarter. It's based on a D&D 4th edition system, so it's heavy on the crunch, a lot of combat. Depending on how you do it, you can have heavy role-playing aspects to it as well. But the idea behind it just looks a lot of fun because there's so much customization that you can get for your mech that allow them to do different things. And I want to play it a lot. I definitely don't have the experience like I would be okay with doing like a quest game per se.
I want to play it a lot, but somebody's got to run it. So,
dude, if somebody's down, I mean, Discord, please. But I guess they already left. I was gonna ask them the question. That's fine. I do have a question for you because while we're on the topic of games and stuff like this is going to kind of go hand in hand with what I wanted to ask everybody too, because it's something that JD and I have been talking about a lot as well. And I'm definitely looking for some answers from you folks out there in internet land on the YouTubes to maybe give some feedback on this. So we have been playing these campaign games for over a year if we basically just take them all and run them together, and we have streamed
the majority of it,
like between Twitch and YouTube. I would say, like, aside from missing some, almost every single one.
Yep, almost every week.
And we were talking and kind of just like looking, like being numbers guys and stuff like that, and looking at stuff like this and knowing how YouTube and stuff works. Kind of brought us to a question, because I understand from my perspective what I'm about to ask. Out of curiosity, how many people in the chat enjoy watching tabletop streams?
Or is it just something that you listen
to? Or is
to?
it something that you just listen to kind of in the background?
Because there's a few different ways to do it depending on if it's something you watch or if it's just something you listen to. If it's just something you listen to, then to save us the overhead and the extra work and everything, it would be more prudent for us to do something like a podcast.
Mm-hmm. And that, I mean, doing something like that would add a little bit more spice to it, because in post-production you can add sound effects and all kinds of stuff.
It takes a little bit more time to edit those than it would to edit just here's a live stream, let me chop off the front, let me chop off the break, let me chop off the end a little bit, and it's good, but the listening to it, you can add a lot more in easily than you could with a live stream.
Yeah, and that also means too that once those things are uploaded, it takes, I mean, for people out in the world that don't necessarily have unlimited data, because that's a real thing.
It's less data.
It's less data used. It's easier accessible. Jason says, I enjoy both. Thank you, Critical Role, and Taliesin Jaffe for getting me started. Dude, those are, that's good stuff. Talison's the business. His voice acting super good. I enjoy watching it because it's interesting to me. So both watching. For me, it's both. I try to watch as much as I can, but if I'm busy, then it's possible to listen at work at the same time. So I'm very much on my personal spot with Olympus there. I'm very much kind of on that.
It's just so much easier to plug in even a single headphone, turn on a podcast, and then go about your day.
Bro, we have bunk internet where we work.
Right.
So like if we're
you can pre-download.
Yeah.
On podcast.
You can do it with YouTube if you have the pro stuff too.
Yeah, but who actually has the pro stuff? I mean, come on.
But on my trip all the way down here, and this is kind of like what led to the conversation that me and JD were having about it. I generally just listen while I'm doing chores, whatever. Okay, so I'm seeing about 50-50, give or take, somewhere around there. So I myself personally am without a doubt more of a listener. Am definitely more of a listener because it's easier for me to pull up my Spotify. I mean, not being bombarded by random weird recommendations when I'm going through something where, like, if I'm watching it on YouTube, like sometimes, like, depending on how ads are pulled up and brought into, which real talk, ad revenue, everybody should just put ads like right at the front end of the video or at the end. Putting them in the middle
Is annoying.
I'm not a fan.
Uh,
But also get money. And having like the Spotify Premium and being able to just listen to that stuff. I listened to Critical Role all the way from Seattle down to here in Arkansas, just over the speakers in my car. I got a decent sound system. It came stock, but it's pretty good. But because the files were smaller, like 9 times out of 10, before I even left the area it was at, even if I got to an area where there was no signal, it buffered it out. So I like listening more than I like watching.
And I'm kind of in the same vein. Even whenever I used to watch Critical Role on the weekly and stuff, it would be background noise. I would be listening, and then if something happened or it was, they pull out the table and the minis and everything, it's like, okay, cool, let me see what's going on. Okay, cool, I'm gonna go back to listening. But it was always just a little snippet where I would watch, and I never watched the whole thing. It was always just a listening while I did other stuff.
Dude, their minis are so good. Their community is just so rad. So many good people are in that community, and the creators themselves are they're good people. And I've had really good interactions with people at different conventions and stuff. Or like I was at work when I was working with, dead serious, dude, right before I came out here, one of the last jobs I did, I was working some IT stuff for Best Buy. And a dude came up and I'm like, hey, sup, critter? And he's like, what? I'm like, bro, come on, man. And he's like, bro. I'm like, what? He's like, it's Thursday. And you just have that immediate like connection with this random person. And it's so cool. But what they do well. And because of them, that's really kind of like what got me into really just the listening side, because I wanted to continue the story and I wanted to know what's going on, but I may not always have access to whatever because of Wi-Fi.
Right.
And just being able to listen to the audio, I think is really, really good. And the reason I bring this up is because of what you said about like the maps and the minis and stuff like that. That's definitely one thing that is not there in audio because you can't see it.
Yeah,
but depending on what game you're playing,
it's not even that important.
Exactly.
Or you might not even use them, or even if you're watching and everything, the amount of production that has to go into something like an online tabletop,
right?
Simulator and all that. And it's like, here's the map and here's the minis, and it's not the same kind of thing as here's a minis on table and it has depth and everything. And if you come in after it starts, you're kind of wondering where stuff is and why the map's moving around. And there's a lot of disconnect and easily disconnect there that it changes it a lot.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're still on the fence about what we want to do. The reason I'm asking if I'm just going to like give you like a behind the scenes look about how this stuff works with like, are we cool about talking about YouTube stuff?
I mean, why not?
Cool. I was like, let me ask my partner before you do this. The reason we were talking about it is because we love what we're doing, and we're going to continue doing what we're doing because realistically, we just really enjoy it. Mm-hmm. I want to meet more people like me that like rolling dice, having a good time, and hanging out. And I'm going to put the Discord link in here for anybody else that's interested.
It's a numbers thing. It's if we stream and the numbers right now, it's not very impactful because we're still kind of small. But if we get bigger and the numbers can't match enough of, it's going to change the algorithm enough to where
YouTube will straight up stop recommending videos because they see such a big difference in the in the watched content that they're kind of just like, something's broken, something's weird here. So that's why we were asking. Like, you guys are realistically as much of this apart as we are. You're just on the opposite side of the camera. I mean, without y'all, we wouldn't be, and we're definitely giving a book away. We're going to do that towards the end of the stream, which is unfortunate because the two people that were here that often comment and stuff too.
Oh, we can leave them in there. We're going to always give them a message.
I mean, they're still on here. Yeah, no, they're still here.
Gibby and Riley.
Yeah. They're both here.
Yeah.
So that'll work. But I don't know, man. It just was a thought and a question that we had that we just kind of want to present to you folks out there in YouTube land.
And this is still something that will evolve and change, and as we grow, it will definitely have to change, because the Discord, if the Discord grows and there's 100 people in the Discord, cool, we need multiple channels, and this needs to be this needs to be handled better and managed better and all that stuff. So it is an ever evolving thing as things grow. So, you know, it could be 2 years down the line we start doing live streams again or whatever, or whenever it makes sense and more people want to watch and that kind of stuff. So it's always evolving. It's just finding the way to change it for now that makes the most sense. Other games further out down the line. That means, other games. I have a list somewhere, a document somewhere on my computer or on my Google Docs or something, where I have close to 80 different tabletop RPGs in a list that all are things that I want to look at some point and dig into at some point. And maybe not to the extent of, hey, we're going to make videos for a few months on this, but to the point of, I want to know how that works. I want to know how that system works, even if it's just me personally reading it. World of Darkness, the Vampire the Masquerade, and those kind of games are definitely in there. The Call of Cthulhu's in there. From City of Mist, Powered by the Apocalypse.
The Apocalypse system?
Yeah.
Thing?
Yes, is very much a more derivative, City of Mist was a derivative of that, and those of that kind. And I would like to look into those, probably not make videos on them, but look into those and see where City of Mist came from. One that I've always wanted to do, and because I'm a sucker for punishment and super crunch, Warhammer.
Dude, Warhammer is
Fantasy.
Warhammer is like a whole nother ball of wax. Like,
yeah. It's crunchy in a different way.
I read about it and what you kind of like, bro, check this out. Bro, check this out. Bro, check this out. That game is brutal, dude. Like,
oh yeah.
Like the game, like depending on how you do stuff, like encourages like dismemberment and stuff like that.
Yeah. And not only encourages it, but it's also one of those games where you're not this special person with these abilities. You're just a dude. You could have been like, you could have been a tracker. You could have been a hunter. You could have been just a generic town guard. You could have been a doctor or a fisherman. And that's what you go into the whole campaign with, is that. And then you're up against, you know, literal demons and you're not even giants, but orcs and things that just literally want to kill you and eat you and drink from your skull. And you're there with your fishing pole. Good luck.
I don't want to die, man. It's not my jam.
And you come out of it scarred and dismembered and beat up and with mental scars too. And it's super dark.
Like, you have like long-term psychological effects in the game. There's crunch and there's depth, and then there's taking the tabletop war game and trying to turn it into a tabletop RPG.
Yeah, but it looks interesting.
It does. It does.
Other ones offhand that I know of that seem interesting.
Did we touch on World of Darkness?
Briefly mentioned it. I'd like to at some point. I do want to look at Pathfinder 2 because I never actually looked at that system.
4, thanks for joining the Discord, and Hannah says congratulations on 100 subs. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
There's more. I can't think of them offhand. I'd have to look at my list, but there's a handful of other ones that I'm looking at for like a year 2 kind of thing where we're doing this format.
We have like the 4 core ones picked out that we plan on trucking through
for the rest of this
year.
And some of those may not be as long as we think they will, and it might be much shorter than we think it is, and it might be a month of that game or a month and a half, and then we have to add another one in or whatever. But it's also one of those, it's the ever-evolving content creation.
Ain't stopping, man. Can't stop, won't stop. I have too much time, too much fun doing this. It's a lot of fun. I mean, I really do enjoy editing the videos and like being able to actually have a conversation with the people in the chat, which is something with as many people here it's fun, man. It's cool. I like to get to know you guys, and if you guys have any questions about us, throw them. I mean, like, I got into tabletop games myself personally when I think I was about 15 years old by my buddy Billy.
I was 20. Yeah, I was 20 whenever I first played D&D. had seen it and heard about it and wanted to for years, but I was 20 when I first got started, and it was awesome. It was awesome. My dude was great. I was a dwarven monk in 3.5.
The first game I ever played,
so hard to kill.
It was like a homebrew thing where it's basically just a generic D20 system. It's like, this is how it's gonna work. Like, all right, sounds
that
easy
was
enough.
most of what we played.
I'm gonna take you on an adventure. All right, dope.
Yeah.
Roll some dice. All right, dope.
I rolled some dice. Cool, this happened.
Yeah.
Cool. Oh, can I roll some more dice? Yes, you can.
Awesome.
This is
Can I roll this? No, you can't. But it was a really good experience, and without getting into too much detail about it, it was a friend of mine that passed away, and every time I play a game a little bit, just being a little real, it feels like he's there with me a little bit. But that's what I got into it, and I really enjoy playing. And your boy started with Advanced Dungeons and Dragons because you're an old fart, Steven.
Old time ago. See, that's something I'd like to look at too. Even like look at Advanced. Because
So
Advanced
no, Advanced D&D has some really cool concepts.
Yeah, a lot of Advanced came back into 5th.
5th edition. All right, guys, this is a pitch meeting. All right, guys.
They hated 4th edition.
But they like 3.5.
They like 3.5, but they didn't like how complex it was. So let's take 3.5 and take 2nd, and then have them a baby.
Can you craft that up for me? See what I can do.
What if we just fix 4th edition? That guy got thrown out the window.
Yeah.
That was me.
he like I tease him all the time. Like, he's legit one of the only people I know that preaches 4th edition. But that's also why, the talk of Lancer gives him a boner because it's 4.5 4 heavy with the way the crunch is handled and stuff like that.
It's just a very tactical game, and it makes my brain happy to be able to say, okay, cool. If I do this, then it's going to set this person up to be able to do this or this or this, and it's going to set the enemy up to where they can only. It's very much a chess game at that point.
I mean, but that can be fun.
I love it.
And I'm starting to realize, like, the more like other games I play, right, like City of Mist and some of these others that I've tinkered around with, like, I need just a little bit of that crunch, man. I need a little bit of that tension. I need a little bit of those mechanics to
Yeah, XCOM, the TTRPG. 100%. XCOM came out around the middle or the end of 4th edition, and it was. Oh, I love XCOM so much.
I like the games.
Yeah.
Those games are gnarly. The strategic ones, they're pretty dope. Cyberpunk is definitely something that I want to get my toes dipped into.
Cyberpunk Red, yeah, that's one I want to look into
later down the road.
There are some weird, like 13th Age is one that I want to look at. There's a Native American based one that's come out recently that I really want to look at.
Yeah, you were telling me about it.
I want to be careful doing it because I don't want to step on any toes or do it disservice or anything like that. Because I wouldn't feel right if I did that poorly.
Well, I mean, when it comes to games that, depending on what is happening in it, like culturally or
and that's the thing.
or anything on that level, you want to show it respect.
Exactly.
Yeah, you would want to, because people put their blood, sweat, and tears in this, and like, I mean, years in my history has very much to do with that stuff in our past and stuff like that. So I mean, yeah, would hope you want to do a good job.
Tidebreaker is one that came out last year that I looked at for a little while and then didn't get on the bus quickly enough that I do want to look at. I just want to look at a lot of them. Yeah.
I mean, there's plenty out there to try, dude. Like,
there will always be enough that we can do this until we're literally in the grave.
And then
whether that be 90 years or
when we run out, which we won't. There's always D&D.
We won't run out. But yeah. Any other questions? Anything about these kind of games in general, or
what got you guys into tabletops?
Our plans, or anything?
But I don't know, man. It's the experience is great. The journey's dope.
Let's try Dread.
Oh, the Dread Tower. It's the Jenga game.
Oh, see, that one sounds cool too. I watched who did that one? It was Geek and Sundry did that one at one point, and I watched that, and it was a weird like a werewolf full moon, but they were on a float trip kind of thing in the night. It was really cool.
It brings, like you said, like you're playing to lose. At some point, somebody's gonna pull the wrong thing, and it's gonna. Oh, speaking of which,
10 candles.
So speaking of people inevitably going to fail, my buddy Nico, he's not here right now, but I love that guy very much. He sent me a copy of the 10 Candles tabletop role-playing game. Bro, this game is it takes tension, it takes like suspense and even horror.
Yeah.
And like ramps it up. Like the whole premise of this game, I mean, you could play it online, but I feel like this is a game you want to experience in person.
It's 100% a game that you want to be out in the woods or out in an empty field with nothing around you, with candles, no flashlights, an old cassette player with pre-recorded stuff huddled up in the snow, and like when your character's gone, you leave.
Yeah. So the way this game works is it runs off of a D6 system, and you get different pools of dice based off of the mechanics of the game, basically. You light candles. There's a total 10 candles, and these candles basically work as like your HP.
It's also your dice pool,
and it's also basically the time limit of the game.
Right.
Every session is built specifically to be a one shot, because at the end of this game,
everybody's dead.
Every character at that table is going to die.
When a candle goes out, you remove a dice. When a player fails drastically,
dude, yeah, okay, sorry. So I've been playing and running TTRPGs for the last 35 years, but as a GM 95% of the time. I cut my teeth on Shadowrun.
Shadowrun's super
yes,
cool.
Dude, yes. As a GM back in 1989. Wow, you've been going hard.
But yeah, more on 10 candles. So a candle goes out for any reason. It could be somebody stood up or somebody set down a book and the candle goes out.
Yeah,
cool.
If a breeze blows it out, you don't relight it.
That candle is gone. That dice is removed. And that dice moves over to the enemy side.
Yeah. You start off playing Yahtzee, and then like the dice you lose,
stack
when they get rolled against you, they stack against you.
When a player fails in a certain way, they are removed from the game. And every player is supposed to record a last message.
You basically
ahead of the game.
Yeah.
As hey, this was my last journal entry. It's been really nice knowing y'all. I hope you whatever. I'm sorry I couldn't help more. I really hoped to find my daughter. Can you please keep looking for my daughter and
they're
make
like,
sure she's okay?
And you can say stuff that your players are like, wait, I didn't even know you had a kid.
Exactly.
Favorite genre?
I like the Crunchy Boys. I'm a Crunchy player. And I'll even go a step further. I'm a space-faring Crunchy player. Starfinder.
Yeah, Starfinder was
Lancer.
tight.
Those kind of games. Like, that's my niche.
And then, like, you and I were sitting and talking the other night, right? And we're like, oh, man, Quest. I'm like, dude, I'm really looking forward to, like, a cliche fantasy kind of thing,
just
too.
Just a sword and board, high fantasy. Here's a stick that has magic. Let's go play.
Let's go stab things. Let's go kill some dragons. Okay. It's my overall favorite genre as a whole when I think it comes to just anything video games or movie related, like, definitely leans towards, like, science fiction kind of stuff, space. I'm a big movie nut, dude, and I put like memes and stuff in like the videos and stuff because, like, if you ever see movie stuff, your boy Ryan edited it.
Usually.
Yeah, and it's like one of my favorite movies right off the bat, dude, is Event Horizon.
See, it's weird because talking about genres, I honestly feel like high fantasy is my least favorite genre for these.
Define high fantasy.
Typical D&D. Because I always want to be like, yeah, but if they have that, then they should have gunpowder, and they should have guns, and if they have that, then they should at least have steamworks, and it turns into more of a high fantasy plus steamworks.
You're a steampunk kid, man.
Yeah, but I would say that's more of my second, because my absolute top end is Starfinder and Lancer and the high space fantasy. Outlaw Star, and like let's just get weird with it, man. Like, I'm all over about that stuff.
I mean, why don't you just tell them about what your favorite animes of all time is while you're talking about it?
I mean, Outlaw Star. It's
what about Cowboy?
And Bebop, yeah. I mean, those two are the... Yeah, absolutely. I'm a space opera fan. But I like the crunch.
dude. All right, that's why.
Let me play chess with
like
my
I
friends.
have that hook in me, right? For, and this is going like talking in circles, but I don't care. Like, and it's got its hooks in me for Lancer, dude. And like the game is taken like some of that, depending on how you're playing, whatever. You can get that anime tropey stuff, right?
Oh yeah,
You can go full blown Gundam.
You can start Gundam just day one. You're Gundam pilots. Cool, let's go.
Dude, so the minute he's like, bro, Ryan, look what I found scouring the internet. He sent it to me. I'm reading. I'm just like, and I'm sitting there. I'm just, oh my god. And I'm like, dude, I just watched Robot Jocks 2 nights ago.
Exactly. And yeah, Bebop is much more of a western, space western. But I mean, Star Wars is just the good Star Wars is a space. If Star Wars is good, it's a space western. It's a western, and the setting is space.
I mean, when you look at what you call it, Firefly.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, that's my kind of story.
And I think what it is about it is, I mean, I would honestly say, like, if I had to pick one, I think that science fiction kind of space fantasy definitely pulls me in, because I'm I'm a science kind of geek a little bit, and I like the idea of the unknown, right?
If I'm going to do a high fantasy, like a fantastical D&D kind of setting, I want it to be super dark. I want it to be, there's dragons and there's these horrible things that go bump in the night, and people don't live outside of the city, because to live outside of the city is to take life in your own hands, and you literally are putting your life on the line.
That's what City of Mist does, actually. That's like straight up, like, they know nothing outside of the city.
But I mean, that's the kind of high fantasy that I would play, because outside of the city, you know, the dragons are there. The things in the dark are there.
The things that, like the village. You're talking about the village.
Yeah, everything that wants to kill you is outside of the city. And yeah, Dark Sun's a good example. And good luck if you decide to do that, because the only people that go outside of the city are the adventurers.
But space, man. There's so much just, I don't know. When we played Starfinder, we played it for probably like a half dozen sessions or whatever.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. Like, that game's got a lot of really interesting mechanics when it comes to like you think, like, take Star Trek's, like, I need to divert power to the shields. You do that. I need to divert power to life support. You do that.
And that's, so talking about the crunch and the Lancer and the Starfinder, one of the things that really excites me for Lancer is each session is essentially you go to the bounty board or you get online.
Another monster of the week.
And it's a monster of the week kind of thing in a way. It's an adventure of the week. You take the job, right? It's the job of the week. And the job could go south, and then you're at odds with that corporation or whatever. But if it's successful, you get your bonus, and your bonus could be, cool, yeah, we're going to send you this weapon. We're going to send you this leg kit. We're going to send you this head and scanner system. Like,
dude, I want to cut robots apart with laser swords, man.
Mix matching pieces from different corporations to make your own custom thing.
You start off kind of like, depending on what you're doing, you can start off as just like a junky clunker, like right out something out of Pacific Rim, like that the kid built.
It makes me want to play Armored Core, but I don't have any of them left.
Those are good games, dude. Mech Warrior is really, really good too.
But run a 20-week campaign using City of Mist in the Starfinder setting. See, that's really cool.
It can be done. Yeah.
That would be really cool.
Oh, that's your actual current session.
Yeah.
That's dope, man. That's actually a really good idea.
Yeah.
So, do you have, like, people on, like, how do I put this? Like, because the game's supposed to be very contained. Like, the way the lore and stuff is set up, like, you don't leave the city. Or did you homebrew it a little bit where you've got kind of people out searching for different areas and stuff like that? Inquiring minds want to know.
Yeah, I'm curious how you do the Mist side of City of Mist in a Starfinder setting. Is it just, it's the eclectic, you might bump into these things, but they're rare enough that nobody knows they're out there?
It's like just the rando people that randomly bumped in, like a Jedi kind of thing.
Yeah, like there's, at their peak, there was like 10,000 Jedi. But 10,000 people in the universe is nothing, and nobody's ever going to see one.
Ignore the mist.
You ignore the mist side of it. Okay, so you use
so you like a kind of like a
you use the
like
system.
a hot, like, yeah.
You use the system from City of Mist, but then you use the setting of Starfinder.
There's a word where they like, it's like a mashup.
So do you do like the mythos and the mythoi kind of thing from City of Mist, and that's where the abilities come from for Starfinder, and then the Starfinder is just the setting, or do you do like some of the Starfinder classes that are in there too?
man, I could pick this dude's brain about how this is done for like the next hour, because I'm just
I'm not going
now
anywhere.
how do you handle combat?
Right.
How is that working? Are your guys inflicting statuses, or are you doing traditional, which is depending on which version of Starfinder you're playing, which is 3.5,
Yeah.
shields and HP?
2 new theme books, an archetype, and a race. 4. Okay. And then I'm assuming the combat is more of the narrative City of Mist style.
Is that how it works? Is the combat more narrative based like City of Mist, or are you doing 3.5 / Starfinder?
Pathfinder. Yeah.
Same. Okay, so he's using
Yeah,
statuses and stuff like that.
See,
So it's definitely, so you basically have it set up kind of like in space, futuristic kind of sci-fi situation, heavy on the narrative.
that's really cool. I think that would work really well because it would keep. Part of Starfinder was between the HP and the way the HP and stamina worked and all that. Starfinder would drag to a halt a lot of the time.
There's like
That was
just
the biggest
recently, like
flaw
there
with it,
was
I found.
some people that were kind of giving a little bit of pushback on it because they don't like playing anymore. I don't remember
Right,
what it was,
and then
but
like the ship-to-ship combat felt clunky, but putting that where it's a City of Mist thing and you have a pilot and you have all these, it's the ship is your crew tag, and but it has its own thing where you can,
Starship theme books, that's dope.
yeah,
That's
so
tight.
You do like your crew tag is a starship theme that you add on top of, like it's an extra theme.
Dude, like, and I'm sitting here, right, and I'm like, man,
That would be cool.
working in the field that I have and having been able to work with different people in different fields, all affiliated with like coding and, you know, game development, stuff like that, right? Like I'm sitting here and now my brain's turned. I'm like, what if you had that, right? And you're talking Starfinder.
Mm-hmm.
What if somebody just develops an API that allows you to, well, not develops an API, develops something that lets you connect into the hook of API of, say, like Fantasy Grounds or something like that. And you want to simplify and streamline like the power diversion and stuff like that. And it's literally something as easy as you basically set up a grid. Your character's this grid, characters here, your stations, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hear me out. So then you're like, okay, well, we need more power to the shields. Click it, shields. It's a little tick mark. Click it, over. So now you don't even have to write this stuff down. It's completely automated at this point.
Right.
And I'm just like, man, if
So never got to do it, and it was a big deal when it came out, and apparently it didn't do as well as they thought it would, because that game's been going pretty steadily downhill for a while. Warframe did that. Your whole crew gets on a ship, and then you all can run individual systems, or one person can jump on this gun and then go do the systems, and it was really neat the way that was laid out.
See, like stuff like that, like I'm like, and now I'm looking back at the whole streaming side of it, right? When you can show stuff like that, when you start doing things that you don't see done normally, like in game streams, and I'm just gonna say like some of the stuff that we do with our City of Mist streams when we do them,
It's awesome. It's different.
They're different, and they make me laugh, dude.
Oh yeah.
They're so good. Like the little intro videos that we do. Like if you guys get a chance, just like watch like the first like maybe 5 to 10 minutes of not the last 2 ones that were up here, but like the ones that are like the folder icons. We have basically like scenarios where we set up and we have like this dude that becomes a character in JD's story. Basically, what we did is we came up with an idea that instead of having to go back and watch the last video,
it's the cutscenes part of the City of Mist, but we've taken it and we've made literal cutscenes out of it.
It's a cutscene that also catches you up on what happened the episode before,
or what's coming up in this one.
Exactly, or what's coming up. So you're like, oh, so the hook's there.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I'm curious. And that's the stuff that we're working on and trying to convert to audio and stuff for, but we kind of had to start over because somebody's mic was just not working out for that.
Yeah, sometimes. Use Google Sheets for the character sheet, full interactive links, and use Google Drawings for maps. We made the transition from Roll20 to Fantasy Grounds, and Fantasy Grounds is awesome, but there's not enough. They're working on it, and they are adding weekly so many different games, but all the games, like there's still so many games that are not there that they don't have plugins for, like City of Mist, and they will eventually.
The only thing that I could see benefiting
Makes tracking stuff easier.
For the status tracking.
Outside of that, it's not needed for City of Mist.
Yeah, because everything's so narrative based. That would be, and like you don't need maps really because you're always just having the conversation with the players. Right. So, but I mean, being able to track that stuff. That's where I was gonna go because the game is so crunchy and like everything's done like legit on a grid.
Yep.
If you're not gonna have like a map at the table, I mean, you need something because range and everything else is a big factor. Ammunition is a factor in this game.
How much the ammunition weighs, depending on what type of ammunition, is a factor. Like it's crunchy.
It's gonna be good, and I mean, JD wants to play it too.
I want to go play BattleTech.
So we need more people hanging out that are about this life, so JD doesn't have to DM all the time. So he can play sometime like too.
It's enough. There are some games that it's hard, and it's the learning the systems like the statuses is a new muscle that I'm having to develop and flex, and it's very hard. But at the same time, I enjoy DMing more than I enjoy being a player.
Why?
That's a really good question. I don't know. It suits me. Like I like that level of the story. I like that part of the storytelling. I like the building this tension and building this arc, and then watching people flail. And I'm a little bit sadistic, so we'll go with that.
A little bit of sadist, a little bit of masochist.
Yeah, but it's one of those. I like telling the story and giving my friends that experience and those challenges and that aspect of this type of entertainment that most people don't get. And it's whereas where I'm a player, I get one little piece of it. And it's really cool to get to be a player and get to enjoy the story and get to do this thing and be the guy. But at the same time, being the antithesis to that and being able to say, yes, good, fall into my trap, and then watching people overcome that and go, yeah, gives me the same satisfaction as being the person going, yeah, because I'm like, yes, you did it.
You're like, I had this is gonna be great. This is gonna be, this is gonna be so fantastic. I got this laid out for the play. It's gonna be great. Yeah. Well.
No, you don't throw it away. You just stick it in
put it in your back pocket.
You put it in your back pocket, and then you put a new skin on it, or you level it up a little bit, and then you pull it back out later and go, we're gonna try this again.
This reminds me of something that I saw, and I think you can find it on YouTube. There was this thing where Matt Mercer had like this huge elaborate like break-in scene situated where
and they completely skipped it.
Yeah, they had to break into this castle, right? And then Sam's like, I've got a bomb. And then they're like, you've got a bomb? Yeah, let's blow a hole in the place. And you can see just Matt go from this to just, all right.
But also at the same time, it's so exciting for your players to do that. Yeah. It's like one of those, oh crap, but this is super cool. This is awesome. Yeah, it's the DMing is this, when it's done and you have that experience go well, it's a whole new level of amazing.
Well, I mean, you're telling a story with your buddies, right? I mean, at least you hope they're your buddies.
It's like, it's the same thing as cooking for somebody.
Dude, I love food.
It's the exact same experience as cooking for somebody. You spend your time, you invest your time, you make this thing for somebody else to enjoy, and then their enjoyment is you enjoying it. Like baking a cake. Oh yeah, or this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just creating art, man. That's
yeah,
art.
I don't know. DMing's interesting. Like the best example I can give of, well, they didn't want to do that. Let me stick that in my back pocket and bring it back later. You start a D&D campaign or a high fantasy setting campaign. There's a cleric who's dabbling in the dark arts in the first town. He's trying to figure out how to resurrect people from the dead.
Well, he's not dabbling in the dark parts. That could be trouble.
He's trying to resurrect people from the dead, and he ends up making zombies. The church is worried about him and his corruption, and they want you to go take care of it.
You now have a D&D session source campaign.
Cool. The players don't do that. They go do the other thing for somebody else. Cool. I'm going to take that guy. I'm going to stick him in my back pocket. Players go do the other thing. They come back through a month later. The town's gone. It's rubble. It's ruin. They start hearing stories about how this necromancer is raising this undead army. oh, they don't really want to go deal with that. Let's go deal with this other thing. Cool.
Continuously is getting worse and worse.
They come back a year later. There's a lich in the area that has claimed control of this whole country at this point and is looking to wage war on other countries. And you're the heroes of the realm, and you're going to go take care of this. Because everybody's telling you to go take care of this. So you've taken that level 1 encounter and turned it into this level 20 grand arc that they've been slowly ignoring this whole time. And then at the end, where they finally beat this lich, you reveal the fact that this lich was the cleric from the start of the game.
My brother-in-law switched from GMing D&D to Dungeon World because he enjoys more of the storytelling. I would say...
I'm not familiar with Dungeon World enough to speak
I'm
to
not
it.
familiar with Dungeon World. But the last part of that.
Yeah.
The open world style, that is 100% what JD goes for.
Yeah, my D&D games are...
Very big sandbox.
Here's a whole world. It's 65,000 miles from one point on it if you go around it to come back to that point, or it's 45,000 miles if you go north to south to come back to that point.
I feel like just reading the title alone, basically just Dungeon World, I feel like that's probably what that is.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole open world experience versus being tied down to just like the small cities and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And a lot of home brewing. That's the words I'm looking for. A lot of home
mine
brewing.
is very homebrewed. I just got tired of everything being in Faerun and the majority of that being in Sword Coast and people having expectations like, oh, it's a troll, let me just go hit it with fire. It's like, yeah, cool, you know that. But maybe it's a different kind of troll and this is powered by the Apocalypse system. Okay, yeah, powered by the Apocalypse system is what City of Mist is based on too. It's just different. Like, it's just... having... City of Mist is hard to set up for that. Here's a world, go find your story. The story is about the characters interacting. It's more of a, here's your city, and this is your riddle to solve.
Yes. If you're taking it for the literal terminology and the stuff that comes out of the book, 100%. Yeah, like it even says in there, and I think I spoke to it a little bit earlier, is everything is very contained in what is called the city. Everything outside of it is unknown. And for whatever reason, your players can't really get out of it.
Right, and even if they get out of the city, like there are areas out of the city and stuff, and it's mostly a normal world outside of the city, and or the world outside of the city doesn't exist, and you're in this weird spatial paradox thing where you can't leave the city. And but it's not. The system is less built to be able to say, "Here's this world. Go do whatever you want. Here's some hooks to get you started, and then wherever you go from those hooks is up to you and whatever you want to develop your character into." It's more of your character has a mystery, let's go discover those mysteries.
Or maybe you take them into space.
Or you take them into space and you say, y'all are a crew in space, let's go have fun. It's just, I don't know, like it's the open-endedness of something like D&D, where it's here's your structure, here's your systems, here's a playground, go play.
I think a big part of that, honestly, is because D&D has been around for so long and has so much content that it might make that a little bit easier as opposed to something like City of Mist.
Probably.
Because it doesn't have the lore. It doesn't have, I don't want to say the content, but it doesn't have...
Well, even the building an adversary, building a nemesis or a big bad guy. There's like 3 pages in the MC kit for it, where it's here's your archetypes for the character type or the danger type. Here's the empowerments that you can give them, mix and match and make it up as you want, or come up with your own. It's like 3-4 pages in the book, whereas the monster manual is a full book.
Well, yeah, like that kind of just calls back to kind of like what I just said, right? Because there's so much more to go off of, and you have more guidelines, more of an idea of how a lot of this stuff is going to work.
Well, even then, you can just randomize it. Like, cool, we're going to go to this page and this thing today, and that's what you're going to fight today. Whereas in City of Mist, it's... let's figure it out. It's the virus thing, or it's a time bomb this time, or it's your nemesis is back, or it's the Baron or what, like there was more limitations on what it can be, and not because that it's limited to that per se, just as it's more, there's not as much made for it yet. Yeah.
I think in time that as more is added to, and I hope that there is, this game has such a big pool, right? It can be so big, and we're barely even really touching the surface as players, because there's so much more that this can do. Like something that we haven't mentioned in our videos and stuff that I've been reading about is a lot of the stuff in Shadows and Showdowns. Like technically speaking, there's an entirely new a new theme book when it comes to even choosing like your mythos or anything like that. They have something that are called gatekeepers that are mentioned in it, which basically
you're the cover-up system.
You're the cover-up system, and you're able to kind of like tap into the mist and get your abilities from that, but not give yourself into it completely.
Right.
And you get your powers essentially from the mist directly, which is super cool. There's so much that can be added over time that would kind of like bolster it, right?
Yeah.
Like we've got the cake, right? In my opinion, like the cake's here. We've got the recipe. There's some in the oven.
We're waiting on the frosting. We're waiting on the sprinkles. We're waiting on the ice cream.
And you can see the picture, and you're like, dude, I see where this is going, and I like it. I like the idea behind it. The concept is fantastic. The mechanics, they're not too complicated. Statuses can be either a hit or miss depending on who you're playing with. But I really do like the game.
Oh, I do too. I think it's great. I'm enjoying it highly. 100%. My issues with the statuses and the progression and stuff is I'm fully convinced that it's just me not having that muscle developed enough, and having to develop that muscle and flex it and learn how to do that.
It's a whole new system, man. It's a whole new game.
Yeah, and that it being complicated, being part of the shortcoming of it, doesn't mean that it's not built well. It just means that it's the hardest thing for people to learn.
No, I would agree with that definitely, because they're definitely because like anybody can roll dice.
Yeah.
Anybody can understand how like the power system and stuff that works. I would say I agree in that the statuses are probably the most complex part about the game.
And it really only falls on the MC.
I haven't been behind the screen, but I've read some of the MC guide stuff. I can see that for sure, because the players really are just looking at the moves.
The move list.
My move does this. Okay, I'm going to give you status of this. Okay. But you've got the MC on their side. Well, I have status here below this point is going to kill this person. Status here below this is going to kill that person. How do I balance and really kind of like bring these two statuses into one?
Right.
Does this one affect that? I can definitely see that. There's definitely more working parts on the MC side when it comes to
and there usually
stuff.
is. It's just one of those. There are good examples in the MC kit of here's your lackey, here's your controlling, or here's your captain level or your lieutenant level, that kind of thing, and they have breakdowns for each one. But it still kind of falls into you have to meld that with what your players are able to do and create your own. If your players are not able to interact with things a certain way, like if your players are unable to catch up to a speedster, cool, they have to be able to impact on them in a different way.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to make up that spectrum, that limitation that they can keep or that they can catch up to. So there is always a level of having to customize and create for this, whereas in D&D it's here's your armor class, this is their HP pool, this is the abilities they have, and what they can use to attack. It's just different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anything else?
I don't know. I'm
Anything
trying
else
to
you
get
wanna
the thing
do?
set up, and I hope I'll have this set up right. So we've been on here for a good little whiles now. Everybody that's been in here,
Good chat.
we appreciate you. Thanks for listening to us ramble and talk about stuff that means a lot to us, and even sharing a little bit about ourselves. I hope I have this set up right. My fingers are crossed. If not, I'm gonna have to figure out another way to do this. So,
I mean, all you can do is hit the button and hope.
right. So, in the chat, if you're here, type in just enter, no exclamation point, ENTER, lowercase,
If you want the book.
if you want the book. Just enter no period.
Yeah.
This should be right.
We'll see if they start coming through.
That's what I'm looking for. Come on. Unless the hooks are just not working on here.
Yeah, if the hooks aren't working, that's okay.
Oh, nope, we're good.
There it goes. Okay, well, we'll give it a few minutes.
All right, we're going to give it a few more minutes. It looks like it's working. Looks like I didn't break it completely.
While that's going, I'll let you entertain. I'm going to run.
Oh,
have a
that's
little
fine.
bio.
Yeah, I got a bio break here. I got coffee running through my veins. I just joined. No idea what this is about. Well, Greenbox, welcome. Me and my buddy JD, we create content here on YouTube centered around tabletop RPGs outside of traditional D&D type stuff. We decided that as a thank you to everybody that's kind of been here and started watching our content that we've had conversations with and stuff in the comment section and on Twitter and stuff like that, that we wanted to give a little bit back to everybody that's kind of been here. And we're giving away this. It's not sponsored. This is us to you. We do have a partnership with City of Mist. We do have a discount code for anybody that wants to pick up some other stuff. It's only a 5% discount, and we do get a little bit of that back. But on checkout at cityofmist.co, if you use code FATE or CHANCE, it'll save you a little bit. But we're going to give it just a few minutes to wait till JD get back, and then I'm going to do the poll for the giveaway, and then that will be that. It's pretty much it. So, yeah, that's what we're here for. We're just here hanging out and give it here a couple minutes. Probably just let it go till about 8 o'clock, and then, yeah, this is working. Yeah, it's... Oh, FYI, don't type more than once because it's going to automatically disqualify you if you try entering twice. So if you haven't yet, it's just ENTER, no caps, one time, and then you'll be entered in the drawing. The ways that we're going to handle this, we can kind of have this conversation a little bit. Depending on how comfortable you are, we can literally just order the book and have it sent directly to your house if you are okay with sharing your address with us. If not, that's fine too. Another idea I have, because as far as I know, the book is available on Amazon, we can send you an Amazon gift card and you can order it yourself.
Yeah.
So
I will say, whatever the next gift card threshold is, which I figure will be probably the $40 or $50 gift card. Whatever is right above whatever the cost is, and then any difference in shipping and whatnot will be probably on you. But if you're comfortable with sending us your address and stuff, we'll cover shipping. And
and like after the stream's done, whoever the winner is, if you could, you don't have to join the Discord if you don't want to, but if you do, awesome.
It'll make it easier.
Yeah, just go into the Discord under the general chat and say, hey, I'm the winner or something like that, so we can open up a private message with you and either just do a voice call with you real quick or just a text chat back and forth, and we can send you confirmations.
And Mr. McNugget had a good idea. If you would like to and you don't want to share your address and whatnot, you build a registry, just a quick registry, a wish list on Amazon, and then send us the wish list with that on it, and we can do it that way. Because then we don't get the address and all that stuff, and it'll just send it straight to you.
Oh, man. Building wish lists now?
Because that's a cool way to do it.
Subscribe to my OnlyFans.
Been your favorite thing about playing City of Mist? I just like the lore. I like the whole supernatural aspect of it, or the Percy Jackson aspect of it, where it's this whole big fantastical thing that's just under the surface of the real world.
The lore is really dope. I like the idea of basically tapping into this persona or power or whatever from something else that gives you these abilities.
Yeah.
And like it being so broad, like, dude, you could take Mario if you wanted to, like have some crazy jump. I can shoot fireballs.
Jump, fireballs, hammers are awesome.
I mean, I'd probably go with it's hammer time.
Yeah.
That's definitely one of them. Kill it with fire would be 2. And then I think mushrooms
are awesome.
I think my mystery would be something like, is it me ?
Right.
Yeah. I think that'd be really funny. Best OnlyFans wish list. Nice.
Just fantasy or tabletop books is your OnlyFans. Yeah.
Cool. anybody else that wants to enter, because what I'm seeing, I've only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's only 8 people that have entered right now.
I wish I could see the list. I can't see the list.
Steven, I love you to death, man, but you're not qualified, bud. Mystery, yeah, who is it? It's me, exactly. I mean, you could go with who is it. That would be good too.
Yeah, if you want to, just scroll up over here and compare that to the, or here, use this and compare that to the chat and make sure you got them all.
One more just popped in. There's probably some people that just have it pulled up that are just listening too.
Yeah.
Everybody that's got images and stuff like that, they're all here. I've got, yeah. So I mean,
Can you manually add them as well?
No.
Okay.
I cannot. So just right now, FYI, I mean, I'm just gonna go ahead and say the names that I've got, and if you haven't, just type in enter. But right now we have, and I'm just gonna say the first names. I've got Dawson, 405, Greenbox, Hannah, Jason, Mingan, Hatfield, Olympus, and Mr. McNugget, which is just, that's too good.
The real Mr. McNugget.
The real Mr. McNugget.
Yeah.
That's how you get that check mark.
It's a good name.
He's looking for that verified concept.
I think he was the last one to put in for it too, so that should be everybody.
And just a quick plug, and then here I'm going to go ahead and do the poll on it. If you guys like what you're seeing, we do put out content on YouTube every Sunday for City of Mist, and going forward there's going to be some more games that we're going to be kind of getting our feet wet with that we would really like to share with you guys. If you want to hit the subscribe button and ride this journey out with us,
that'd be cool.
That'd be tight.
And you can join us in the Discord and talk to us directly. I'm working on setting up a group finding channel to where it's looking, if you're looking for a group or you want to join us for one shots and test out different games that we play and stuff, we're trying to set that up too as soon as
!Discord in the chat. We'll pull that up.
Yeah, as soon as we get to the point to where I have time to DM or
it's also, it should be in the description below as well.
But it is all part of what we're going for. And even then, just general chat, if you just want to chat and talk about your day or talk about games in general, by all means jump in, have a chat with us.
Okay, weird.
We'll get that added to the description later.
Okay, I thought it was there. Oh well, that'll work.
Yeah.
All right, so with that being said, here we go.
Hit the button. Let's see what happens.
Nightbot wins.
No.
Dawson.
All right.
GG's Dawson.
Yeah, Dawson. That's awesome. Oh yeah, there it is, Dawson G. That's cool. All right. Yeah, we'll get a hold of you or get a hold of us, Discord or however you want to. We'll talk with you and get it set up, and
yeah,
we'll get this into you.
This won't be the last time we ever have any of these. We have this little whiteboard that we put together.
So I would like to do one of these per every game that we play.
I would agree. Yeah. So the next one that we'll do would be, I mean, maybe I just like the idea of just being able to give out like the player's guide.
Yeah.
I would really like to give out a quest book, and I think that should be our next one.
It will probably be our next one.
So, yeah, Dawson, in that Discord, just go ahead and say, hey, it's me, and then we'll message you as soon as we jump off here in the next couple of minutes, and we'll get that out to you, and we can figure out how you want to do it. Everybody that's been in the chat, sincerely,
thank you.
Thanks for hanging out.
Because a lot of y'all have been here the whole time.
Yeah.
And there's been a few that come and went and whatnot, and it's...
Want to double or nothing for more books?
Ooh.
I mean... No, because then if you hypothetically...
I just bought the chair.
Yeah.
I can't do two books
like, we got bills, bro. We live on our own. This isn't a sponsored stream.
But, I mean, we could probably do another book at some point.
Thanks, man. I got you on Twitter, man. I see you. I talk to you. Everybody, seriously, thanks. It's been here. You can check out our latest YouTube video. We went over Cruise.
Everything
we uploaded that one today. And still don't know exactly what we're gonna do as far as the gameplay sessions goes, whether we're gonna do the audio only or not. Nonetheless, there will be another stream again next Sunday, because it's kind of just an ongoing thing. Whether it's just us just kind of talking and hanging out with you guys again,
or we go back to playing,
or we play.
There will be a stream at 6 Central next Sunday.
Yeah, next Sunday for sure.
What it is, we'll see.
Came late, but I will come back. Nugget, dude, appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Everybody in the chat, thanks for hanging out again. We appreciate you and we love you. until the next stream, until the next video, stay awesome, be excellent, and love each other.
We'll see you.
Peace.